Attention public speakers. You're about to discover what 46 of the 50 most popular TED speakers used to emerge as some of the most influential thought leaders of our time. In this letter, I'll show you the shockingly simple insight that my clients use to get an ongoing series of speaking gigs, sometimes from just a single engagement, and yet is completely untapped by the vast majority of public speakers. In fact, by implementing this insight, you will not just attract more and better opportunities, but you will be able to ensure that people put away their phones and actually listen to everything you say. Hi, this shiny head belongs to me, Neil Gordon. I'm a communications consultant and book collaborator who used to work as an editor at Penguin and has ghostwritten or collaborated on books seen on shows like Dr. Oz and Ellen. I've helped my clients to put together content that has gotten thousands of shares and likes on sites like Huffington Post and MindBody Green, and help them to craft speeches that had the conference people who hired them come up to them after their speech and tell them they would have paid them double for what they charged. Seriously. But you want to know something interesting? When I was younger, my ability to comprehend language was next to nothing. It's true. When I was a small child, I had a proficiency for reading and writing unmatched by most of my peers. After I was administered the Stanford Achievement Test in first grade, I tested in as high as the 99th percentile for reading and word study skills. But by the time I was a teenager, that proficiency had completely deteriorated. That might not seem all that uncommon, but this was a pretty drastic change. As you can see, by 7th grade, I scored in only the 54th percentile for reading comprehension. And in high school, I got a 330 verbal score the first time I took the SATs, which put me in the 5th percentile. But here's what I discovered. The problem wasn't actually me. The problem was something else. My brain turned to mush because, quite frankly, the content I was reading or seeing wasn't that compelling. And yet, only a few short years later, I was editing New York Times bestselling authors at one of the biggest publishers in the world. I ghostwrote content that went viral. And, most significantly, my aptitude for nonfiction has led one public speaker after another to attract an avalanche of new opportunities. And what came about to help me make this discovery? Two things. Number one, certain books I discovered in my early 20s that inspired me to completely transform my relationship to language. And number two, TED Talks. With the help of the TED Stage's most popular talks, I came to understand an immensely valuable insight. It's an insight that has made the difference in my TEDx speaking clients, getting 6 times as many views on YouTube as other speakers at the same event. My clients getting 5 times as many shares in some articles over others, and, as I've already said, has led to an enormous surge in demand and fees for their work as speakers. In fact, with this insight, people have lined up with their business cards after they've heard my clients speak. They've gone from giving their talks for free to only speaking if they get paid, and are getting invited to speak at events all over the country without even advertising their services. One client used this insight to tweak his delivery of one of his signature talks and has gone on record as saying that he's gotten 8 speaking gigs from that one engagement. Another one of my clients even used this insight in her live workshops and now converts between 50 and 75% of attendees to a discovery call for her high ticket programs worth thousands of dollars. Seriously, 50 to 75%. Even I was gobsmacked by those results. It almost seems unbelievable to think that a single insight could make such a profound difference. But the steady stream of stories that features my clients completely transforming their presence as a public speaker proves that this insight is neither fluff nor hype. And best of all, it reflects a pattern in some of the most famous works dating back up to 2,500 years ago. So we know that it's not a flimsy flash in the pan gimmick. Frankly, it is such a versatile resource that early on I wondered if it wasn't as powerful of an insight as I thought. But my clients and I have applied this insight to everything from autism to unified physics to healthcare technology to artificial intelligence and a whole host of other topics as well. And you know what happens right when my clients share the fruits of this work with others? People light up. They put away their phones. One time, I helped a client of mine apply this insight to the work she had been developing for more than a decade, and the next moment, she started crying. She was so moved by this insight into her work that she actually broke down. And I'm not a therapist or a life coach. This power doesn't come from having the fanciest words. It doesn't come from a lot of hype. And it absolutely doesn't come from having a lot of technical knowledge. Sounds almost crazy, doesn't it? Of course it does. When people tell me they have some sort of panacea for solving a whole multitude of problems, I figure it's a cheesy gimmick. And all I ask is you hold off from disbelieving long enough to see the evidence for yourself. It will just take a few minutes and will help you attract other people to your message with greater effectiveness than you ever have before. Look, here's the cold hard truth people will never confess out loud to you or anyone else. In the age of information, they are not interested in what you have to say. They don't care about all the different elements of your idea or how good your intentions are. Here's why. Between social media, a constant inundation of who knows how many blogs, and a whole host of companies trying to get your attention through advertising, there is far too much content out there for the quiet, dry nature that we see in things like college textbooks to win you new followers or opportunities. If you go up on stage or in front of a camera to give a keynote or talk, and allow for the typical flaws that haunt so many well meaning thought leaders, you'll lose the competition for people's attention spans. This means you'll be forced to endure the polite but restrained applause at the end of every talk, and fail to express your message in a way that will actually have an impact. You see, the old ways worked great when people weren't able to connect to any content they wanted from a tiny device in their pocket. And it has been said that we now create 2.5 quintillion bytes of data every day, and that 90% of the world's data has been created in the last 2 years alone. This means that if we don't get the value of our message across to someone, they will very easily move on to the next message, and the one after that. So we then have two options. Either A, resort to clickbaity, flashy gimmicks to shock people into paying attention to our content, or B, find the most concise, compelling way to get our idea across while still honoring the integrity of our message. In other words, find a way to be true to the steak while still having the appeal of the sizzle. So, what is the fix that both captures people's attention and also upholds the integrity of our message? It's actually pretty simple. How do you get your message out in the age of information? You base it on something other than information. It's not to say that information is bad. And it's certainly not to say that information is unnecessary. It's just not the basis of a message that sticks. Here's what I mean. Most people jam pack their talks, articles, and book proposals with all sorts of facts, figures, steps, tips, and, my peeviest of pet peeves, hacks. They falsely believe that the more information they provide, the more people will be attracted to their message. But the most successful thought leaders don't do this. The most popular TED speakers include information, but didn't get millions of views because of it. They understand that the content they put out there in support of their message is like a house. If you were to build a house without a foundation, the whole structure would fall apart. Similarly, if you were to build your talk upon a bunch of facts and figures, people will drift off. They'll tune out. And they'll only ever clap politely at the end of the presentation if they don't leave early outright. Or, like in the case of my education, their capacity to comprehend everything will completely deteriorate. The great visionaries of our time know that limiting their content in this way will be a shortcut on their way to the middle. They understand that it's not their job as a thought leader to provide knowledge. They understand it's their job to do something else. It is their job to build a foundation so that their audience will take something away of true value to them. It is their job to empower others to create a better life than they had previously. And to do this, they utilize a key concept that can be illustrated by, believe it or not, a classic children's story. You probably remember the story of the little engine that could. A train breaks down on one side of the mountain, and they're trying to get the train over the other side of the mountain for all the little girls and boys. So a sleek, shiny engine comes by, and they say, "Oh, Mr. Engine, will you please take this train over the mountain?" And he says, "No, I'm too busy. I don't have the time." Then an old rusty train engine comes along, and they say, "Oh, Mr. Engine, will you please take this train over the mountain?" And he says, "No, I'm too old and tired. I don't have the energy. Then a little blue engine comes along and they say, "Oh, Ms. Engine, will you please take this train over the mountain?" And she says, "Sure." So she hooks up and then she goes up the mountain, very famously saying, "I think I can, I think I can." And then she makes it over the mountain. The little engine makes it over the mountain because she was empowered to do so. Now let me ask you, was the little engine empowered because she knew more than the other two about how to haul a train over a mountain? Did she have more information than them? No, she did not. She made it over because she was empowered in a way that the other two engines were not. So if she wasn't empowered because she had more knowledge, what was she empowered by? You'll of course remember that on her way up the mountain, she said, "I think I can." She didn't have more knowledge. She simply concluded she had both the time and energy to make it over the mountain. She thought she could make it over. She believed she could make it over. And this is the key insight that has defined the most popular TED Talks of all time. People are empowered not by that which they know is true, but rather that which they believe is possible. People are empowered not by that which they know is true, but rather that which they believe is possible. People do not line up with their business cards after a talk because you gave them information. They line up because something you said has caused them to believe that they can make some sort of change that's important to them. That's it. And no matter how many charts you put in your slide deck, and how many sources you cite in your research, and how many fancy words you use when you explain your ideas, the only thing that matters in the end is whether someone believes that they can solve a problem with your help. And they will believe this when you share the foundation of your idea. Not a bunch of information you know to be true, but the underlying foundational belief that pervades everything you do. Let me provide you with an example. 2,500 years ago, a military strategist by the name of Sun Tzu authored a book called The Art of War. And all of this time later, it's still quoted. It's quoted in the movies, and even the third season of the show The West Wing. But they don't quote the various questions, pieces of knowledge, or other items that start off the book. They don't quote his information. They quote line 18 of the first chapter, which says, "All of warfare is deception." This sentence is Sun Tzu's underlying belief, a silver bullet, if you will, that defines everything else he teaches. He then proceeds to explain what that means in greater detail throughout the rest of the book. Why should that one sentence be the one that's quoted throughout popular culture? Because, quite simply, it empowers its audience without any other context. Someone could go up to a harangued military officer and simply say, "All of warfare is deception," and that officer could suddenly start forming ideas right then and there on how to deceive his opponent on the battlefield. That officer suddenly believes that change is possible. That officer is suddenly empowered. Simply put, this silver bullet like sentence is a cause and effect relationship of a single action leading to a single outcome. Deceiving your opponent is the action, and winning the war is the outcome. In the middle there is the silver bullet. 46 of the 50 most popular TED Talks have a cause and effect sentence like this, like the one that Dan Pink states at 17 minutes and 43 seconds into his talk, what Brene Brown says at 19 minutes and 50 seconds, and what Simon Sinek says at 4 minutes and 30 seconds, 5 minutes and 34 seconds, 10 minutes and 50 seconds, 13 minutes and 3 seconds, 13 minutes and 25 seconds, and 15 minutes and 6 seconds. And yet nearly all other speakers don't even go near it because they're too busy giving you as many tips and hacks as they can. And this cause and effect sentence is what I've used to help even the most awkward public speakers hold people rapt at attention in only seconds. And guess what? You can apply this technique to your speaking in only seconds as well. In fact, when you use this technique in your talks, it won't even matter if your talk is 20 minutes long or 3 minutes long. You will be able to empower others in the same fundamental way. And the funny thing is, when you not only understand but implement this technique, you will not just have the silver bullet for empowering others. You will be able to scale it to every talk, book, and even elevator speech that you ever give about your message. This makes creating content as easy and painless as writing a text to a friend. Anyway, this silver bullet concept forms the basis of how I've been able to help people get alarming results in not very much time. Results that aren't just a vague suggestion of success, but rather an empirical difference in their ability to impact their audiences and their wallets, including, like I've mentioned earlier, how my clients get a multitude of new speaking opportunities, convert more than half their audiences to discovery calls, and have doubled their speaking fees. And because of how consistently they get these kinds of results, there is now a way for you to get access to this process quickly, easily, and without any risk. Here's how. I have recently put together a short and simple training called Silver Bullet, the untapped technique of the most popular TED Talks. And it contains the process I've used to transform some of the most rambling, convoluted messages into content celebrated on multiple continents. I originally put it together so that I could help my public speaking clients to streamline their engagement with me so they could get the results they wanted without having to hire me for many more hours of my time than was necessary. And yet the training is only 55 minutes long. The process in this training has since transformed the quality of people's talks and keynotes in everything from healthcare to computer technology to extreme couponing. But not even the TED curators talk about the silver bullet, so you cannot find this training elsewhere. And until now, it was only available to my clients. However, if I hear from you today, you'll have the opportunity to access this process immediately. More on that in a second. But first, here's just a small taste of how my clients have benefited as speakers. Neil has been a gift in my life and business. Our greatest project to date may be guiding me through the development of a home run national keynote presentation that delivered results and brought in additional speaking opportunities. My client, Kelly. The best possible testimonial for Neil is that those words, that silver bullet, is what audiences frequently write down after I've spoken. I can't imagine a higher testament to message than when they choose the one you hoped they would. My client, Bob. With some simple direction and Neil's expertise, I have booked a number of speaking gigs, doubling my price. However, in a less tangible sense, Neil has helped me make a very personal and difficult topic easily digestible and relatable. Working with Neil has changed my life. My client, Alyssa. And, as I alluded to earlier on, after speaking with Neil, it was simple enough to work in some of the changes he suggested and to do exactly what he told me to do in my presentation. After doing that, I booked 8 speaking engagements from one booking. My client, Tim. 8 speaking engagements. Imagine how good it will feel when you've gotten up in front of others and, more than just providing a bunch of information, and more than just getting polite applause at the end, you stand up and speak with such clarity and conviction that your audience will have no choice but to hang on your every word. And imagine if you become such a compelling speaker that people actually start paying you to speak. Or, if you already are a paid speaker, imagine yourself commanding an even higher price. Anyway, here's the bottom line. After using Silver Bullet, you'll not just be able to put together a powerful TEDx talk or keynote speech. You'll have the foundation you need for creating an entire message of thought leadership, including the main ingredient you'll need for writing a best-selling book. And while you may have struggled to explain the significance and importance of your work up until this point, now your audiences will wonder where you've been all their lives. It's actually almost comical to see the sparkle in people's eyes when they suddenly have the clarity that using this technique provides. Once you own this training, you will figure out the secret sauce that you've quietly always known was there, but now can be shared with everyone, everywhere, for the rest of your life. And it's so simple, too. Just follow this technique and, before you know it, you'll see that sparkle in people's eyes right before they come up to you and offer you another speaking gig or convert to whatever your call to action is that day. Here's just a small taste of what you'll discover in this training. The false way that most people try to start this distillation work and what you can do instead. Why you should never fill your keynote with your clever anagram of different steps or components. 7 different ways to format your silver bullet to suit your particular needs. And the simple twist on the silver bullet that, with 3 or 4 extra words, will make it even more powerful than before. Ask any thought leader you've met if 3 or 4 words have ever changed the trajectory of their career. Chances are they haven't, but they will for you. And when you do uncover your silver bullet, It will become as routine for people to come up to you with their business cards as it will for them to politely clap when other people's talks are over. Anyway, here's the bottom line. After going through Silver Bullet, you'll never need to rely on empty buzzwords or cheesy gimmicks ever again. And you'll find yourself on a path to the kind of clarity that turns speakers into visionaries and authors into rock stars. Once you own this training, you will have the skills necessary to build the foundation of all of your other work as a thought leader for all time ever. And did I say that this process was simple? Just follow the accompanying worksheet and, before you know it, you'll be on par with thought leaders from 2,500 years ago. Yet I want to make this an even easier decision for you. It might be one thing to understand what this technique is and how to apply it to your life's work. But what if you wanted to also learn from the greats in terms of how this technique has been applied? You probably remember how much I talked about 46 of the 50 TED speakers having a silver bullet, and how I provided you with a few examples of where those silver bullets show up. I actually have a spreadsheet I can send to you that tells you precisely where the silver bullet is in these 46 talks. So you'll be able to see these cause and effect sentences for yourself. Anyway, what does silver bullet cost? You might remember the high conversion rates, the multitude of speaking gigs, and other remarkable outcomes that my clients have gotten. And you'll remember Tim, who got 8 speaking engagements from a single booking. Here's an image of a wall people could write on at a conference where Tim was a speaker. And this conference was the first time he implemented his silver bullet that we worked on together. They clearly liked him more than anyone else, for while the rest of them got 1 or 2 mentions, Tim got 6. So, charging even a couple of hundred would probably be okay. But you know what? I'm not going to charge you that amount. I know talking about content creation can be a bit nebulous, for anyone can hang up a shingle and call themselves a content person. But if you have a public speaking opportunity creeping up on you, or you want to have one in the very near future, I want to give you every reason to take advantage of this technique today. So I'm going to give you a chance to pick the system up right now at a steep discount. If I hear from you today, you can download Silver Bullet and also get the 46 TED Talk Silver Bullet spreadsheet for only $47. Why price this package so low? If you were in a cheesy horror flick and were about to fight a werewolf, and you took time and deliberation to craft an actual silver bullet, what would happen if you just threw the bullet at the werewolf? It would bounce off and land with a thud on the ground. In other words, you can't fire a bullet without a gun. I've priced Silver Bullet at the price I have because you may also want to overcome the key problem most people face when they craft the talk upon which their silver bullet is based. What usually happens when someone distills their silver bullet is they lead with it and make it the most prominent part of their talk. They place it right at the beginning or even make it the title of their talk. And frankly, there are only a couple of TED speakers who have pulled this off. When my clients have shouted their silver bullet from the rooftops before getting my help, it tends to turn people off. This is why, along with the Silver Bullet training, I also offer you a gold level upgrade on creating a talk with the kind of structure that holds people rapt at attention the entire time. But because this is an upgrade that requires further and greater investment, I'm going to provide you with the high-level concept that defines the heart of structuring a compelling talk. For with this concept, you might be able to say, yep, I'm good with just the Silver Bullet training, Neil, because I really do want you to make the best decision for yourself between the two choices. As we've established, people are empowered not by that which they know is true, but rather that which they believe is possible. And this greater possibility is based on your audience making some sort of positive change in their lives. This positive change implies that they have a problem they want to solve. Weight loss, succeeding in business, or something else. So when people come to your talk and you hit them over the head with your silver bullet right away, why would they even care? Did they show up because they care about your solution? Or do they care about the problem they want to solve? This is why, when I help my clients structure their talk, I have them delay the reveal of their silver bullet until after they've established the audience's problem at the beginning. People are most likely to embrace a solution when it's provided in the context of the problem it solves. And that's the key insight that defines the gold level training, the importance of creating context. But like I said, that's at a very high level. If you imagine you would like your hand held a bit more through the process of crafting the talk so as to create context, the gold level training will take you step by step through the act of structuring your talk, telling compelling stories, plugging your content into one of several possible templates based on your particular needs, and there's even trainings on how to avoid the mistake most people make when crafting their slide deck, and how to deliver content in a truly compelling way. This gold level training will take nearly all of the guesswork out of crafting your talks so that you can show up on stage with absolute conviction behind what you're going to say. If you were to go on my website, neilcanhelp.com, right now, you'd be able to buy the combined package of the Silver Bullet training and the gold level training on creating your talk for $297. But right now, just this one time only, you can get both the Silver Bullet training and the gold level training for only $197. Plus, either option comes with a 30-day "let me see if this is legit" guarantee. If, after reviewing all of this material over the next 30 days, you find that this isn't the most mind-blowingly awesome framework for putting out amazing content, I'll buy the training back from you and you can keep the TED spreadsheet just for your trouble. That means you have zero risk. So choose your preferred training package now, as this is the only time this offer will be available to you. If you come back to my website tomorrow, the full price of $297 will be in effect. To order with your credit card on our 100% secure server, simply click on the link below that says, "Click here to get Silver Bullet today." You'll then have the choice of either the Silver Bullet training only or the package that includes the Silver Bullet training and the gold level training on creating your talk. Remember, you risk nothing. In fact, with the "let me see if this is legit" guarantee, there's simply no way you can lose. You can access the insights provided whether you keep the products or not. So click below and choose your ideal training right